I'm going to introduce our speaker today. We're very thankful to have Summer Childers, Summer Childers, who is with the Alabama ABC Board. She is the Licensing and Compliance Division Director. So we're thankful to have her here to talk with us today to understand this new law about alcohol home delivery. This program was put together by a group of prevention specialists around the state. I am Carissa Anthony. I'm with the Safe and Healthy Homewood Collaborative here in Homewood, Alabama. But we also have colleagues with Impact Montevallo, For Tomorrow with Alabaster, Drug Free Andalusia all the way down in South Alabama. We have the Addiction Prevention Coalition that's up here in Birmingham and our neighbors. And then we also have the Alabama Alcohol Action Network that all work together to make this happen. And we couldn't do it without Ms. Childers being here today. So definitely appreciate you. And I know you're a little under the weather, so we appreciate you being here today. So I will turn it over to you.
Okay, thank you so much, Carissa. I am a little bit congested, so I apologize in advance to you guys that I'm going to have to drink during this because my throat's a little bit sore. So just forgive me because I know that's not always pleasant when you're listening to someone speak. Okay, so you can go ahead and go to the next slide, Carissa. I'm going to start off by just giving everybody a brief overview of, well, kind of brief, but give you an overview of the delivery law and the direct shipment law, because a lot of people do mix those up and kind of use them interchangeably, and it's not the same thing. So the direct shipment is that allows strictly the shipment of wine. And I'll start with that one because it's a little bit, to me, this one's a little bit less of a concern for the parents because I think most kids are going to try to go for delivery rather than direct shipment, because direct shipment, they don't know when the order is going to come in. It could come in while their parents are home. So that's just not going to be as easy for them to do. But the direct shipment allows direct shipment of wine by a manufacturer who is either licensed by the federal TTB, which is Tobacco Tax and Trade. So they're either licensed by them as a manufacturer, and that's what they present to us to show that they're a manufacturer, or they're licensed by another state. They could also be licensed by the state of Alabama. So far, the majority of those that have applied are not licensed from Alabama. They're licensed from California and other states. The license fee for that annually, it's $200 initially, and then it's $150 annually to allow them to direct ship to consumers. So that's going to be direct shipping to your homes. They do have to get an attestation before, when the purchase is made, saying the person's 21 and over. You and I both know, all of us know, how well that works when you're talking about kids going online and trying to order something. But they would just say, yes, of course I'm 21. But they also must label the box with a conspicuous label that says contains alcohol, signature of a person age 21 or older required for delivery, and they are supposed to obtain a signature. They may not ship to licensed premises. They may not ship to elementary, secondary, or post-secondary schools, or the dormitories, grounds, housing of elementary, secondary, or post-secondary schools. So there is that in place. They cannot ship to healthcare facilities, including substance abuse facilities, mental or psychiatric care facilities. So that is a good thing that was put in there. They can't ship to a locker or a mailbox or any kind of storage facility, and they cannot ship to an address that's not a permanent address. So all of that was kind of put in place in hopes that, it would prevent kids from like ordering to a storage unit or something somewhere where they could go pick it up. So those things were put in place. They're supposed to check ID. They're supposed to obtain a signature. And I've discussed this with several of y'all in the past. They're going to hopefully do that, but you're depending on a delivery driver to do that who has 5,000 other packages they're trying to get out. And, anyone in our state who sells, delivers, furnishes, gives alcohol to a minor, they're all, they could all be charged with that criminally. But there's nothing as far as like a delivery driver, there's nothing that the ABC board can charge them with administratively. So anytime we have a licensee that sells to a minor, there's a criminal charge made by law enforcement, and then there is an administrative charge made by the ABC board against the license. Well, the UPS people, they don't have a license with ABC. So there's nothing that we are able to do for that. That's a little bit concerning with that. There are reporting requirements in place that those delivery companies, which would be, a common carrier like UPS, FedEx, and I have a parent too, y'all. I'm sorry. I'm working from home because I'm sick and he is shrieking during the call, so I apologize. But any of those companies that are going to be delivering, they're not licensed by the ABC board because they do not sell alcohol. So there's no administrative action we could take against them. We would have to go for the out-of-state company, who again is located out of state, probably not going to be really concerned about, whatever we're going to hit them with. Hopefully that won't be too much of an issue with the delivery to minors on that, because it is only wine. Most kids, of course, kids will want to drink anything they can get, but most kids are going to go for beer or, something else, some kind of seltzer drinks or liquor. They're not going to typically go for bottles of expensive wine, but it is still a concern because it is being shipped directly to your house. And I can tell y'all this, and I'm getting kind of off of the overview here, but I ordered some with my personal money just to see what happened, because we do not have backstory. We don't have post-certified law enforcement. We do not have buy money at the ABC board. So we have to work with law enforcement for stuff like this. I just used my personal money and ordered some around Christmas. And I ordered wine, and it was delivered to my house. And I got a text message saying that I had signed for my package and that it was delivered. And when I walked outside to see if it was there, the guy was coming from the truck with the package. But that's very concerning, because that is what's going to happen. And we're going to have to do something official with law enforcement to get evidence and proof of that happening. But that's concerning because clearly, he did not require a signature. He did not check my ID. And I know I look, old enough, but I wasn't out there when he did that. So that's the kind of brief overview of delivery. And of direct shipment. See, there I did it, interchanging them. And delivery is a lot more in depth, and it's a lot more concerning. So let's go over delivery and what that allows. So delivery allows the delivery to your home by a local delivery business of beer, wine, and spirits. Anyone who is a retail licensee of the ABC board already can apply for a delivery license. Any third party that's an organization can apply to get a delivery license where they could contract with those retail licensees, and restaurants can apply to deliver. They do have to have limitations that we'll go over in a minute, but they can apply to deliver. In manufacturers, a lot of our manufacturers in the state of Alabama have off-premise retail sales. They can also deliver. So that's basically everyone can deliver. They can get a license, they can deliver, they can contract with other businesses to deliver. And of course, they can deliver to anyone 21 years and older and for personal use only. So that license, and again, I'm only talking about the license fee just to show y'all how inexpensive these license fees are, how many people will be willing to pay this to deliver. We did, so the license fee, it's $100 for the filing fee, and that's only an initial charge. And then it's $250 for the license fee, which is annual. So they pay $250 and they can deliver for the entire year for as many companies as they contract with. So you see that that's not much of a deterrent. Oh my gosh, I'm so sorry. I knew they were going to do that. The other thing I was thinking about telling y'all, just skip my mind when they started barking. I'll come back to it. I know I'll think of it. We did say the word entity. So we said any third-party entity that's we said a third-party organization, valid and responsible organization, because we were allowed to put some input into this. And we did that to limit it from being a bunch of individuals who just wanted to, deliver out of the trunk of their car. We wanted to at least try to keep this as companies that are responsible and going out and forming an LLC or some kind of organization and have business plans in place rather than just individuals. So that did hopefully limit that a little bit. The delivery drivers themselves, they do have to undergo training and certification. And the training right now, the ABC board has to approve their training, but it's not like a set consistent training. So there are some things in the law that it says, the training must cover these topics. And that's kind of vague. So I'll tell you guys what it does say that it has to cover. So it says that the training, I'm so sorry, y'all. I wish I could block them or go to another room. I don't have anywhere else I can go right now. My pets just want to be noisy when I'm talking. So the training must include identifying underage individuals, identifying intoxicated individuals, and identifying fake or altered identification. Now, that's what was put into the law. And then in the regulations, we added some other requirements in there that they needed to cover: delivery driver eligibility requirements, which we'll talk about in just a minute, and legal sales and delivery of alcohol, customer verification, which again is the ID. We just wanted to really make sure that they're, up to date on the ID, delivery refusal criteria, and then the violations and penalties, because we wanted to make sure that those drivers knew the penalties criminally for them if they deliver to a minor. Okay. I cannot believe that they've been quiet all day till I'm talking to them. So for the delivery drivers, we talked about that there are some requirements that they have to undergo to become a delivery driver. One of those is that they must be 21. One of those is that they must be 21 and older. They do have to have a valid driver's license, and they have to have had a background check in the last 24 months. The results of that background check must comply with the following. They cannot have been convicted of any driving under the influence in the last 7 years. They cannot have been convicted of a crime involving a sexual offense, fraud, property damage, theft, act of violence, or act of terror. Now, of course, that is up to the company. We can't check every employee, obviously, for every company. So that's up to the company to check, but we can request that they provide us with certification that their employees have undergone that background check and have passed it if anything does come up. They also cannot have had a match on the National Sex Offender Registry. They cannot receive compensation based on the completed delivery of a product. So in other words, they can't pay them based on whether or not the delivery is completed. Of course, they get tips. So that does affect it, but they can't say like every time you make a delivery, you receive $20. They can't give them any kind of compensation based on the delivery occurring. And I'll be honest with y'all, several of the companies actually give them a bonus if they bring alcohol back because they're trying to deter them from leaving it with a minor. So that is one good thing. And they have to be trained and certified on all the training that we talked about. So those are the requirements for that the company has to make sure their delivery drivers comply with. So that is a good thing. And then let's see, next, let's talk about. So when they do deliver, okay, so they can take orders via telephone, internet, or other methods, which I guess would be maybe a written order. So far, everyone I've seen does internet or telephone. They have to get an attestation again at the time that the order's placed. So somebody has to click and say, yes, I'm 21. We all know, again, that's not very effective, but that they do have to do that. And then when they deliver the item, they have to ensure that the ID looks legitimate, and they have to use a scanning software, which I've explained to them is strictly a tool. The scanning software, the fake IDs are so good now that kids can get that they can literally scan back to legitimate information. So the scanning software, that's a tool, but I did tell them, all of them I've told this as they're applying, like, don't depend on that. That is a tool, but you still need to look at this. The companies, you need to train your employees to look at these IDs and figure out the dates, because that scanning software can be incorrect. And they do have to make sure the payments process before they leave the premises. I'm not really sure why that one was put in there, but that's just something that they also have to do. So I wanted to tell you guys of that. Okay, and then I think you all know this because Carissa had a really great visual of this, but I'm going to go over the limitations for delivery with y'all because this is not how it started out. This is how it ended up by the time this law passed, and the limitations are kind of crazy. So beer, with the exception of draft beer, can be delivered in any size container, and it cannot exceed 120 12-ounce cans of beer or the equivalent. So that is a lot of beer that can be delivered in a 24-hour period. And kids could do a lot of damage with that, obviously. Draft beer may not exceed 288 ounces in a 24-hour period. And then wine can be sold in any size containers, provided that it does not exceed 9,000 milliliters, or the equivalent is 12 750 milliliter bottles, which is the average size wine bottle. And then spirits can be sold in any size bottle by an off-premises licensee, provided they don't exceed 9,000 milliliters per customer per 24-hour period, which is, again, the equivalent of 12 750 milliliter bottles. So that's a lot. Restaurant licensees can also deliver, but it must accompany a meal, and they are limited to one 375 milliliter bottle or less. So they are not unlimited with it, but that's for other reasons because of the type of license that they have. And it does all have to be in a sealed original container when it is delivered. Let's see. So any violation of this section, period. Oh, and also the delivery where they cannot be made. I need to tell you all about that. So deliveries cannot be made to They cannot be made to a residence hall on the grounds of any institution of higher learning, including any college, university, community college, technical college, or junior college. They cannot be made over 75 miles. So this is a large distance. So from the location where it's ordered, the retail licensee where it is ordered from, the delivery must be made within 75 miles of that location. So that's a very large distance. They can only deliver during the hours allowed by local law. So for most places in Alabama, that's going to be until 2 a.m. on Saturday night into Sunday morning. And then they may be able to deliver depending on the Sunday sales in that area during the day. And then they can only deliver to a wet county or wet municipality. And so those are most of the limitations on that. Carissa, do you want me to stop for questions like after this overview while it's fresh on people's mind? And I can also talk about the violation history here, but I think we have a place for that later.
So what I would say right now, Summer, is why don't everyone can put questions into the chat box.
Okay.
So feel free to do that, and we can, as a matter of fact, I'll check it right now. I had not been checking.
That is now through a lot of information at everyone's side. We can.
Yes. So everyone, just feel free to put questions over there, and we'll monitor that. And then at the very end, we'll make sure you have a chance to answer those questions. Because what may happen is, as you go through this, some questions might just naturally get answered.
Okay, that sounds good. All right, we can move on to the next one then. So compliance challenges. I'm going to kind of give you guys a brief overview of how compliance checks work now, just so you know the background of this and how they work, because I think that'll help you understand why it's a lot harder in this situation with delivery and direct shipment. So in 2015, our post-certified agents were put under Alabama Law Enforcement Agency, or ALEA. So we do not have any post-certified law enforcement at the ABC board anymore. When you're dealing with minors, we want to make sure those minors are protected. We've got to have law enforcement working with them on those minor compliance checks. So we cannot conduct minor compliance checks without law enforcement with us. We do participate with ALEA, and then also we work with a lot of local law enforcement. There are some requirements for our minors for us to affect the license with it. We do have to make sure that they're not doing anything that's misleading or trying to entrap someone. So there are certain requirements for the minors that they need to look like a minor. They have to present their real ID, tell the truth, all that kind of stuff. But we do have local law enforcement agencies that work and do compliance checks with us, as well as ALEA. So they do a criminal charge when they arrest someone. So if they go into a location, and what they do now is they'll randomly pick locations, or if they receive a complaint on a location, they'll take a minor who has been approved through their agency, and they will send that minor in with buy money, and that minor will make a purchase. They'll have some kind of recording device to show proof that the purchase was made, all that kind of stuff, and the police officer will be observing. So the minor will go in, make the purchase, come back out. The police officer will then go in. They will issue them a citation, a criminal citation. Sometimes they make an arrest. I think it depends on the situation, but they will criminally charge them for that. That has nothing to do with anything that we do at the ABC board. We will charge against the license itself. So that law enforcement officer will give us a copy of the information of the sale that took place, and then we will make a charge against the licensee. So just let's make up an example of a store. Just let's call it ABC store, even though that's not going to happen at our stores. Let's call it ABC store. But the law enforcement would go in, they would give us a report on that store, then we would charge them administratively. So the first time that they have a violation for a sale to a minor, they typically get $1,000 fine. The second time, they typically get $1,000 fine. The third time, they have to come to a commission hearing. There's no option. And then a lot of times they're suspended. They could be suspended, they could be revoked depending on how bad it is. So that situation, it's very easy to prove that the sale took place. With a delivery, well, let's say with first direct shipment. With direct shipment, it's going to be very difficult because you have law enforcement officers are going to have to find some way to have a product delivered to a minor. And, especially now with the way the mail goes, I mean, I know I'll get something saying I'm going to get a package today, and then it'll be the next day, and then it'll be, well, it's been, there's a delay, and it's going to be 3 days from now. So it'd be very difficult for them to have a minor in place if they did not have someone who would allow that to go to their home. And I don't know, I would not be comfortable with that if I had a young child allowing someone to make a delivery, possibly get arrested, and then they know where my child lives that caused them to get arrested. So I think that's going to be a major issue, is just trying to facilitate that. the logistics of trying to do a minor compliance check on that. Delivery will be a little bit easier. With delivery, they have the possibility, and I've discussed this, I know with Aaliyah, they have the possibility of renting a hotel room or getting an apartment to use, possibly a house if they know someone that would let them use a house. But the issue is that financially, it's just kind of cost prohibitive because they have to set up recording equipment. They have to set up cameras and audio recording equipment to make sure that they get everything recorded. And then often after there is one delivery made, and this is from talking to other states, after there's one delivery made, and this is the same way once we're going out and go into the physical locations for brick and mortar stores, once there's one sale to a minor, everybody hears about it and nobody else is doing it. So that's going to kind of be the issue. Theirs, it's just going to be cost prohibitive. They set up all this recording equipment and then they can never use that location again after one time. And they might get one or two that night, and then that's going to be about it before everyone finds out about it. So that makes it very difficult for law enforcement. And, I hope that it's not going to be too prohibitive, but I think it is going to make it very difficult to conduct these checks. And in talking to other states, I found that a lot of them are having the same issues we are with that. You can go on to the next one, Carissa. So strategies for parents. So what can you guys do to help make sure that your kids are not getting alcohol? One thing that Carissa had actually mentioned to me, which is a great idea, is, and it's not that it's going to for sure work, but it's definitely helpful, is having some kind of sign or door. You know how people will have a sign or a clean sticker on their doors or windows that says, this household does not accept home alcohol delivery, which is a great idea. Security cameras, almost everyone has those Ring cameras or Blink cameras and all that are set up. And if you can make those to where your children cannot access them to turn them off and on, that would be very helpful because you can always have those, motion detection on if you're not home, and you'll be able to tell if somebody walks up and delivers something and see what's going on. Monitoring debit and credit transactions. And I mean, honestly, not letting your child have a credit or debit card access when you're not with them, is an option to keep them from purchasing things online, because most of these things are going to be purchased with a debit or credit card, not cash. That's hard to do because kids now have debit cards and credit cards and cell phones and everything like that. You can check the history on their browsing on the internet, as long as there's not a way on yours, if it's set up where they cannot delete that stuff, you could check that to make sure that they're not going to sites where they're ordering. And you could require parental approval for app installs on phones to prevent youth from setting up delivery apps and accounts separately from their parent. That's a really great idea. And one option that we talked about was contacting the home delivery service and request to opt out of alcohol home delivery. And Carissa and I talked about, and I'll talk to our legal division about it, is seeing if there's a way for us to require that as an option. I don't know if we could do that by reg, but possibly. And I'm going to talk to our legal division and see if there's a way to do that, because that would be great if you could literally log in on your account and opt out of home delivery, and your kids don't know the password to that to change it, as long as they don't know the password to change it. And then a big thing is just for parents to speak up. So if if you know that your kid has gotten a delivery from a certain company and that kind of thing, call in and report it, because without us knowing and being aware of that company may not be checked for quite some time, depending on how many there are at the time. And then before this stuff becomes effective, that's the time to speak up. When you know that there's a bill out there, and I know a lot of times we don't know. Everybody's going to work and taking care of their kids and their family and cooking and cleaning, and you just don't have time to be aware of all the bills that are going through during the legislative session. But that's the time when this stuff is down there at the legislature, and there's something that you don't want to pass because it's going to present a danger to your kids, or the possibility like this of kids getting alcohol easier. That's the time. Call your representative, call your senator for your area and speak up. And that's really the best way, to try to prevent these things from going through. Carissa, you can move on to the next one, unless you have anything you want to add here. Did I get lost?
Sorry, Summer, I had muted myself.
Oh, no, I'm sorry. I thought I had cut myself off.
No, you're still here. We have several, prevention leaders that are on this call. So if anybody has any other strategies or ideas that parents can, to help parents manage this, because I certainly don't want with I have two teenagers. This is just not the time in my life whenever I want alcohol home delivery. I'm not saying once they're out of the home that wouldn't be a nice convenience. But, while I've got young children, that's just not something I want to have happen. And I'm just shocked by the quantity of alcohol that can be delivered per day. I feel like, I don't know if there's a way we can try to get someone to look at this and limit it, because I just can't, I can't see how the average household would need 12 bottles of wine at one time and 12 bottles of liquor and 120 12-ounce cans of beer.
I know, it's insane. And when that was initially put in, we did have reasonable limits in it. And someone asked them to expand that based on, this was what I was told, that it was based on that people may have a wedding or a party and they want to order more. My thought is alcohol is not a necessity. It's not like bread. It's not milk. It's not food you need to live. It's alcohol. So I think it's kind of crazy to have delivery, period. And I don't have young kids, but I just know, how kids are, and I don't want to see other kids get hurt because of this. But I agree. If anybody has got ideas or thoughts that could help the parents, like, we need to get something put together, because I've been racking my brain with ideas that might help them. And honestly, I can't come up with a lot.
And Randy has his hand up. Let's see if, Randy, if we can let you unmute yourself. Are you? I'm going to find you, Randy. Here we go. Okay, Randy.
Yeah, I think to that point, I guess for me, it's just an awareness. I obviously don't understand the need or the consumption levels that we're talking about, but I think it's the people that want that and do that, they know what's going on. It's the people that don't require services like that just have no idea this is even happening. And what are the consequences and unintended consequences for those people? So it's almost like you're trying to make, those who don't care about things like this aware of what the fallout is going to be if their kid is visiting another kid's home, things like that. So I guess it's not really necessarily an answer or an idea. It's more of just a general observation that, how do you make people aware of these types of things if they don't care about them like those that do? I guess that's all I would add.
I think that's a valid point. As parents, it certainly puts the ownership on us to have conversations with the parents of our children's friends to say, hey, you might not be aware of this, but a lot of alcohol can be delivered to your home. And I just want to make sure that we're all on the same page, because I could totally see a teenager who has a friend whose parents aren't, when they know they're not going to be at home, setting it up so that the alcohol is delivered to that house and the parents are unaware of it. And that's where they get the alcohol for the party that weekend. They get it delivered. So I guess it does put a lot on all of us as parents to communicate with each other. So we've got some strategies that we talked about: door signs, security cameras, monitoring debit and credit transactions, limiting or requiring parental controls on apps set up on a phone, contacting the home delivery service for opt-out. Can anyone think of other strategies that we can share with parents on how to protect their home and just make sure that this doesn't get into the hands of their children? All right, Summer, I guess we don't have any additional suggestions on that, so I'm going to let you go back to the not PowerPoint, but the slideshow to tell them about the proposed legislation.
Yeah. If anybody does think of anything, though, I think we could share ideas back with Carissa and get ideas back maybe to me, and maybe we could look at doing some kind of I don't know. I'd have to ask, about this, because I don't know that we could do this kind of thing. But I'd like if we could do some kind of public service announcement about it, because Randy's exactly right with what he was saying. People are not aware of this, and the people who are aware of it, I don't know that it's that they don't care. I don't think that they see the unintended consequences. Like, I think a lot of the people who knew about this and who wanted this probably don't have young kids at home and didn't really think about the unintended consequences, which is exactly what he was saying. But, I mean, it would be nice if we could do some kind of public service announcement or pamphlets or something to give out to parents, especially. So I'm going to kind of go over some of the 2022 proposed legislation because, again, this is a lot of, I mean, before I worked here, I never knew. I mean, just being completely honest, I never had a clue what was down at the legislature being worked on. And I know that's how most people are because, you just don't hear about it if you're not involved. I hear about it a lot of times because they'll ask me my thoughts, on one of these bills or something. So first and foremost, one that's concerning to me right now is HB 119, which is Representative Isbell is the main sponsor for that. And that is a bill to allow drive-through windows for the sale of alcohol. Now, again, that's one of those that may not seem that concerning to you. You're like, well, they can still check ID. They can still, it's harder to check ID if you're going to try to do a compliance check, you've got to have a police officer in the car with the minor. And it's just, there's some weird logistics there too. But on top of that, my biggest concern with that, more so than even, I mean, the minors are going to get it the same if they walk in or they go through the drive-through. Hopefully they don't, but if that cashier is going to sell to them, they're going to sell to them either way. The biggest concern with that one is that a person could be completely intoxicated, and that clerk is supposed to not sell to them if they're intoxicated, and they're supposed to try to determine that based on the totality of the circumstances. If someone is not having to get out of their vehicle and walk, you can't see them stumbling, you can't smell them as well. If they have alcohol in their breath, you're not going to be interacting with them the same, and you're going to be looking at them through a dark outside drive-through window. So my concern with that is for the innocent person that's down the road and somebody who's already drunk goes to the drive-through at the gas station and gets another 24-pack and then hits a family and kills them or injures them. And then on top of that, when there are lawsuits because of that, maybe someone's family member's injured, paralyzed, can no longer work, whatever happens, and they try to sue this company, that cashier is going to say, well, I had no way to know that this person was intoxicated. I couldn't see them. They were in a car. So I think there may be an issue when it comes to liability in court. Now, I mean, I'm not an attorney. I could be wrong on that. I just think for the liability, for the insurance companies to pay out, they're going to have to determine that it is the store clerk's fault and it is the store's fault. And if they cannot tell that the person was intoxicated, I don't know that it's going to be their fault, and the insurance may not pay out. So that may be, really an issue for the innocent citizen that's unsuspecting. That one's my biggest concern. We also have an update to an amendment to the direct shipment bill. And this one, there's a companion bill in the Senate. So HB 240 is the House bill from Representative Collins, and then SB 172 is from Senator Singleton. And those are amending the direct wine shipment to allow direct wine to be shipped to dry counties, which even delivery is not allowed in dry counties. People that live in dry counties, they can purchase a small amount for personal use, take it to their home. But that county, the citizens there voted, they didn't want to go wet. They didn't want alcohol being sold in their area. And if this law is updated, it will allow alcohol to be direct shipped to the homes. On top of that, it literally prohibits the ABC board from even asking for an ID or verifying citizenship during the application process. Prohibits us from requiring them to have an additional insurance other than what they already have for other licenses in our state. Well, as I told you guys, most of them don't have other licenses in our state. Most of them are in California or somewhere. So if they shipped wine in to someone's home and that, a kid gets it or whoever gets it and drinks it and drives, have an accident, they wouldn't have to have insurance like any other retailer in our state would if that passed. And then it also prohibits the Alabama Secretary of State from requiring the business to register as a foreign entity. And that's just what the bill does. The biggest concern to me is not letting us verify who the person is that's getting a license. If they were to ship in something that, for whatever reason, poisoned people or something, you can't even be sure that you can trace back to a legitimate real person if we can't even verify IDs on these people. So that one's concerning. And then there's HB 176 from Representative South. This one is actually scheduled, I think, for an open hearing tomorrow. This one changes the age unless he took some amendment requests from us. It was going to change the age to allow 18 to 20-year-old servers at all on-premise locations. But we did speak to him, and right now a restaurant that's RVP certified, which means they're responsible vendor program certified, they've got to go through certain training requirements. they can have 19 and 20-year-old servers currently. And he said that was all he was trying to do was add 18-year-olds to that. So hopefully that is how that bill will end up going through, is we gave him the amendment to change it to only allow the 18-year-old servers at responsible vendor certified restaurants. But currently, the way it was initially written, it did allow 18 to 20-year-olds at any on-premise, which could include a lounge. But hopefully that will be amended before it goes through. And then there is HB 234 from Representative Rafferty, and this one is only applies to Birmingham currently. Now, we all know, if you've dealt much with the legislation, that currently this one will apply to Birmingham. Next year, Mobile and Baldwin and everybody else is going to see it and it'll end up being all over the state. But it allows a food truck to sell alcohol in Class 1 municipalities, which is Birmingham. Now, the concern I have for that, and he was great to work with us and try to take, amendment requests and things to tighten it up a little bit. Initially, it was kind of just allowing food trucks all over the city. Now it's only in an entertainment district. The concern with that is once we start, we don't allow rolling stores right now, period. If it has wheels on it, it cannot be licensed. The purpose for that is, one, the compliance check so that we know where to send kids to make a buy. But now, of course, we've got delivery and direct shipment. So that kind of makes it harder to justify not allowing that. But we don't allow the rolling stores for that reason, because we don't know where they are if they move all the time. So that's why we had not previously allowed that. This food truck bill, like I said, will only allow for Birmingham, but everyone will want that once they hear about it, and it will change. So that's kind of a big one. I don't know that it's a big problem. It's just kind of a big one to be aware of. And then last but not least, and these are only the ones that I think really affect us as far as minors or intoxicated persons, things like that are more concerning. This last one is kind of big because it allows, currently the ABC board has control of all spirit sales through wholesale. So whenever anyone purchases spirits to be sold at their location, it goes through the ABC store. This one would allow licensed wholesalers to sell a product called a spirit infused refreshment, which would be a low volume spirit based beverage. And it would only allow it for 10% ABV for up to 16 ounce size. So I don't know that one's really, it's a big change. It's concerning to me that could lead towards altogether the state being out of control of alcohol. And I feel like the state controlled alcohol helps keep there from being so many licensed locations, keeps more places from selling to kids or intoxicated persons. So that one's a little concerning for that reason. But those are the main ones that we had a lot of concern on that I wanted to just make sure you guys are aware of, because like I said on which one was it that's down there tomorrow for the open meeting? The 18 and 20-year-old servers, like that tomorrow's an open meeting. So anyone who's opposed to that can go down there and speak at that meeting and tell them that they're opposed to it and why. And like I was saying before, if it's something you don't want to pass, the time is before it passes. Hard to take it back once it passes. It's easier to stop it from passing. We can go on to the next one, Carissa. Thank you. Oh, and I've just kind of touched on that. Parents' voices need to be heard, and that's for sure. Make sure that you're heard with these things. The people that are making these laws and stuff, they don't know if all they're hearing is how everybody wants this stuff, wants it, and they're not hearing from the parents that are concerned about it causing their kids to be able to get alcohol. Then they don't know any different. They're just hearing what the public wants them to hear. So make sure that you speak with your representatives and your senators when there are things that you do not want passing. Okay, Chris, I'm sorry.
And Summer, I would like to insert here that those who are represent prevention groups, if you will drop in the chat your prevention organization and how they can connect with you, I think that's a great idea because, we represent all different parts of the state. These are issues that affect the whole state. It's not just something that's, for Homewood, Alabama or Birmingham. I mean, it's all of us. And so I think connecting with others that have kind of a passion for prevention too can be a good thing. So I appreciate y'all dropping that in the chat so that people can see that. I think we can never underestimate the value of advocacy. I think the challenge we faced, especially in the last legislative session, is that because of COVID, the State House was pretty much on lockdown. There were very few, it really was hard for anybody to get in there. And so a lot of things seemed to have happened that probably had parents had a chance to voice their opinion, it might have been different. You guys have all probably heard the whole want, if a legislator or lawmaker or anybody hears from at least 8 different people on an issue, they're more likely to pay attention to that. So I think the challenge for all of us as parents and as prevention people, really, and just people who care about youth and our community in general, is to reach out and to connect with our lawmakers and let them know how we feel about this. I don't know, is there a way to put the genie back in the bottle on the whole alcohol home delivery bill? I mean, are we just stuck with that now, or is there anything that we can do to change it or to modify it?
I think that if they heard from people that they want something to be modified in it, they absolutely could go back and do an amendment to that, just like there's an amendment this session for that direct wine ship, even though it's loosening it up more. But I mean, if there were enough people telling them we want this tightened up, these limitations on the amount of alcohol are ridiculous. I think that they could definitely do that. It's just a matter of getting someone to work with you and do it. But if enough people called them and wanted that, it's a possibility.
Okay. Yeah, I wasn't sure if once something like that has happened, if you're able to do anything differently.
Yeah, I don't think they would. I don't think they'll ever take the option of delivery away now. I think they might be willing to tighten it up some if they got enough, backlash from parents.
Mm-hmm. Does any other prevention providers around the state have anything to add or questions? Thank y'all for putting your contact information in the chat. I see Susan Short said that if a legislator hears from 5 to 7 constituents, they kind of consider that because they consider that the viewpoint of their whole community. So that's good to know. Okay. Well, I don't see any chats and no one else looks like they're going to have any comments. So Summer, I guess we just owe you a big thank you for being here, sharing this information. It's a bit scary, but we need to know it. And so now the challenge for everybody else that's on the call is to go out and spread the word about it so that parents are aware.